Hey guys, it's your girl Tina here. I am back with a girl talk video. I know it took me so long, and I just feel like with these videos, I just have to be really in the mood because I have to dig deep and be honest and raw with you guys, and it just takes time, but I'm back. I'm back with one of these videos. And by the way, these types of videos aren't exclusively just for girls. It's just the title that I've called it. Anyone can watch it as long as you guys are interested in the topics that I cover. Now in today's video, I want to cover a few topics. I've been getting questions about body image, self-confidence, insecurities, mental health, relationships. And so I want to talk about these because these topics aren't really spoken about enough. And it's something that we all go through. And hopefully by me sharing my experience with you guys and being like that sister that you guys can chat to, it makes you realize that you are not alone. Future Tina here. I totally forgot to mention the giveaway, so I'm going to mention it now. As you guys know, I always do a giveaway in my Girl Talk videos, and in this video, I'm going to be giving away a self-care package that I put together for one lucky winner. If you want a chance to win all these goodies, stay tuned until the end of the video and answer the one question I'm going to ask you. So I have my laptop here. Let me have a quick sip of coffee. Feel free to grab your coffee, tea, beverage of choice, whatever it is. Whew, I feel awake. Let's dive into the first question. Did you ever feel insecure about your body image? How did you overcome it and not feel embarrassed? I think I struggled with my body image a lot in my early 20s. I just hated the way my body looked. I felt like I was really short. I didn't like, where I would hold weight around my tummy. I felt my arms were fat. I didn't like my hips because they had hip dips. Like there was just a long list of things that I didn't like about how I looked. And like looking back on it now, I realize why I felt like this. Like number one, I was just not confident with who I am. I just felt like I put a lot of self-worth on my exterior and not my interior. And it was mainly like the type of content I was consuming. For example, like the magazines I'd read, there were skinny models, the shows that I watched, everyone looked like perfect, all the celebrities and everyone just had perfect bodies. And I ended up comparing myself to these people, or even like friends that I had, like people that were taller and skinnier. I would just like strive and kind of want to be like that. And obviously like my body was very, very different. I was also really insecure about my breasts. I felt like they were uneven, they were small, and I didn't feel like sexy or like, I didn't feel like a woman back then, and that was a big thing for me as well. And I resorted to getting my boobs done. I resorted to plastic surgery, and I mean, like looking back at my decision, it did boost my confidence for a period. But now, as like the older that I get, I kind of like regret it. It's hard because when you're in that mindset and you want to change something about your body and you think that plastic surgery is the answer, a lot of the time it's not even to do with like that area of your body that you don't like. It's always like more like internal. It's like how you see yourself, how confident you feel with who you are on the inside. And honestly, like, okay, like after I got my boobs done, yeah, I felt like I was more confident, but then I feel like that just opened another can of worms, if you know what I mean. Like it kind of just escalated, and I ended up getting my eyelids done because I was insecure about my eyelids. Like they were uneven, they were small. I didn't like how makeup looked on it. And then I got into fillers. I felt like, oh, I didn't like the bump of my nose, so I'd get filler done. And then it's just like a whole bunch of things. And so like at that time it felt like a quick fix, and I was like, for sure, like once I get this done, I'd feel more confident. But that was never the case. I just found something else that I didn't like and that I wanted to fix, or I felt like I wasn't good enough because I didn't look like this. And that happened like a lot in my early 20s. So after going through that up and down cycle of being kind of like really obsessed with how I looked, I think what really changed was I just realized, these things aren't making me happier. Like me changing this and looking a certain way, I thought, okay, I would be happier once I looked like that, but that wasn't the case. Like if anything, it kind of made me more insecure because then I would think like, oh, can people tell that I've got this done or that done? What are people gonna say? And then I was just really in my head, and it was really negative and toxic. And so I knew I had to kind of just change my approach, change the dialogue I had with myself. Instead of like asking like, why don't I look like this? How come I'm not tall enough? How come I'm not skinny enough? It's more like, okay, what can I do to make myself feel more confident that doesn't have to do with like how I looked? I started focusing on more of like my achievements and my goals that weren't linked to like my physical body, if you know what I mean. Things like starting a business, focusing on the type of content I was putting out there. I was just like less consumed with how I looked. And then also I did like a purge of all these accounts that I was following. Like on Instagram, if I would be looking at photos of like models in bikinis, I know that it would make me just feel like bad about myself. So I just kind of like, you know, unfollowed those accounts. And then I put my energy and made sure that the content I was consuming was more inspiring and had nothing to do with like what that person looked like. So, you know, nowadays I follow a lot of like nail accounts, arts and crafts. I'm like really into like polymer clay jewelry. And so I feel like changing your environment also helps. Like if things trigger certain negative thoughts in your mind, you gotta like make sure you cut that out of your life or minimize it at least. And now with the embarrassment part of the question, I always feel embarrassed. Like I feel like you can't live life and be scared of feeling embarrassed, because at one point or another, everyone's just gonna like muck up or you're gonna feel embarrassed. That's just like a normal human emotion. I feel embarrassed like daily, especially when I'm filming like, you know, my videos, I'll mess up and, you know, like there's just a bunch of things, but I just don't really dwell on it anymore. I used to. I would always think back at a really cringy moment, something that I said or like how I looked, and then it would just be etched in my mind. But now I just kind of feel like it is what it is. It's fun. Like everyone makes mistakes, everyone fumbles. Not everyone's perfect. And I just kind of like let it go, you know? Let it go, let it go. I'll probably look back and feel embarrassed about that. When you gain weight, do you get insecure, and why? By the way, you are beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes, when I gain weight, I do feel insecure, and I kind of feel bummed because I know that the reason why I've gained weight is just because I've kind of let myself. You know, I've been lazy, I just don't work out, or I've been eating junk. And in a way, I feel more guilty nowadays than just like insecure, because I know that like I should be treating my body way better. Like I love myself too much to let me get this big, or, you know, kind of let myself go this far. I think it is really a normal thing, especially comparing how you used to look with like how you look now, but kind of just like you need to know that everyone's body changes. Like your body is not going to stay the same for your whole life. You know, our lifestyle changes. You know, after you have a kid, your body changes. After you hit puberty, it changes. And so I think it's really important to just be more kind to ourselves. I tend to just accept it, but then I know like if it's something that's really affecting me, if I'm like, you know, if I gain like 5 or 10 kilos, I'm like, uh-oh, like I know it's gonna affect my health, and not only the way I look, but obviously, you know, like my future as well. I could be going downhill. And so I just make sure that if I can change it, you know, and if it's really affecting me, then I would put that effort into change. But if it's just like 1 or 2 kilos, it's not like a big thing. Like everyone fluctuates. And these days I'm just a lot more forgiving, you know what I mean? Or I just wear like baggy clothes. That seems to do the trick. Do you think plastic surgery is good for insecurities? This is a really hard one to answer because I've been down that track. I have had plastic surgery, and yes, in a way, it did kind of fix my insecurity for a brief period. But then there's like a whole other bunch of things that come with it, if you know what I mean. For example, okay, so I was 20 when I got breast augmentation. And maybe I was thinking about it for maybe a year or so, and I just felt like, oh, if I have fuller looking boobs and they were more even, I'd feel better about myself, clothes would fit better, la-di-da-di-da. And I didn't really focus on like what would happen in like 10 years, 20 years, like how would my body change and stuff, and how would I change like internally as well. And so like that wasn't even in my brain. I didn't even think about that. And like with any type of surgery, there are risks involved, okay? And obviously the surgeon will explain it to you, sign a waiver form, but really that kind of just like, all those details just kind of get lost in the back of your brain. And for me, I mean, I didn't have any major complications, but I did lose sensation in one of my nipples, and I have numbness in some areas, and that's been like permanent. The surgeon said like, oh, it could come back, but for me, it's gone. Like it's gone. Say bye to that. And you know what? Afterwards, I was like, okay, like maybe that's a good trade-off and stuff. But like looking back on my decision, I was just so like, I just was so adamant that this will fix my insecurity. But now I'm like, sometimes it's hard for me to find clothes, and then with the clothes that I wear, I kind of don't want to show them, and it's weird. Like as you kind of go through life, your lifestyle changes. You know, when you're young, it's cool to like rock a low cut top and show some cleavage. And now I feel like I feel more, I want to be more conservative, and especially like living in Singapore and Asia, I just feel like there's lots of like uncles that could stare at you, and it makes me feel super, super uncomfortable. And so like, I want to be more covered up now, but I didn't think about that when I first got my boobs done. I was just like, yay, like, I was just thinking about other things. Also, not to mention that breast implant illness is now an actual thing that could happen to you. A lot of women that did get breast implants got sick afterwards. Thankfully, I didn't get any of those symptoms, but like it could happen, and then there's an array of risks involved. And so like, in a way, like plastic surgery can kind of fix certain insecurities, but know that sometimes it just is like a starting point, or kind of it kind of snowballs, if you know what I mean. And it really depends on the mindset that you have. Like if it's something that's like really, really bothering you and it's just gonna change your life if you get it done, then yeah, like of course that can definitely boost your confidence, but just know that there are risks involved, and to really think long term about it, because once you change it, it's like forever. Or if you wanna like, you know, redo or get things removed later on, that's going to cost a lot of money, and it's just going to, you know, another surgery and more risks. So it's just like, it's really hard in a way. So I guess my answer in short would be like, yes, it can, but then there's other effects as well. So it's like a yes and no, depending on, you know, the type of plastic surgery and your situation really. Do you get anxiety or depressed? Do you feel like you need to please others? I'd be lying if I said I never felt anxiety or depression and the need to please others. I think it's something that most of us struggle with. And for me nowadays, I think because I'm so much more aware of my feelings, and because I had like an emotional roller coaster before, and I've had breakdowns before, I kind of know what triggers it, and now I avoid certain things so that I don't have that like intense anxiety take over or feel depressed and just want to stay in bed all day. But yeah, like I did go through a stage of that, and like I filmed like a breakdown video on YouTube, and it was a lot. And yeah, like I wanted to please others, and I wanted to please you guys with my content. I wanted to please my family. I wanted to make sure that everyone was just happy around me. And then I just kind of like forgot about me, which sucks, but it's something that I had to go through to realize how important mental health is. And that's why I think it's so important to like open up and talk about it, because a lot of people will experience this in their lifetime, especially with like social media and just the comparison we have with other people. Like our brains, like I feel like it's so hard for me not to compare myself with other people. It's something that I consciously have to work out, and I feel like a lot of us will feel that way. And so like what's really helped me is just kind of like cutting out those triggers. And the first thing you need to know is like what makes you feel anxiety, what gets you in this depressed state. There's definitely a need to kind of be alone and be in touch with your feelings and spend that time to get to know yourself. What do you like? What don't you like? What triggers this feeling? What triggers this emotion? It takes time, and it's like you got to be super raw and honest with yourself. I find that journaling definitely helps, and just kind of like writing down everything that is going through your mind, and so you can kind of categorize things, you can kind of figure it out. What doesn't work, I'll tell you, is kind of like pushing and suppressing that emotion aside. I did that for ages, and then I kind of just blew up, like it kind of got piled on top and there was nowhere for it to go, and then it just exploded. Also, I think another important thing is just having someone to talk to about it. A lot of the time, I feel like after I talk about it, or if I talk to Alfred and kind of just be super real and honest, and you know, he listens, and that's kind of like all I need him to do, really. I feel like when I talk about it, I feel a lot better because I'm not bottling all these emotions inside, and I just kind of like voice it out. And you know, if the person you're talking to is a good listener, is caring, loves you, a lot of the time, you know, they're going to be there for you, they're going to support you. And I feel like that definitely helps. It's a little bit like therapy, if you know what I mean, kind of just letting it all out, talk about it. It is okay. How do I stop comparing myself to others? Oh, I wish there was like a magic like pill or potion we can all take and then just like never really compare our lives or how we looked to others. But unfortunately, it isn't that easy. It's something that we all have to work at day in, day out, especially because we are bombarded with social media. And the thing is, okay, I'm a content creator, so I know this, okay? Things that people post online, it is heavily edited. It is like the best like moment captured, and they kind of just like tweak and show the best moments and the best images of themselves, because of course it's natural. We want people to see the best version of us. And so when we're in bed scrolling at night looking at like Instagram models or influencers and stuff, sometimes we just forget that, hey, like we're comparing our like day-to-day lives with something that's heavily edited, and it's like the best moments, their highlight reels, and of course it's going to be like worlds apart, you know what I mean? Not everyone's life is going to be happy and dandy and rainbows and butterflies all the time. It's just like impossible. So some tips that I personally do to kind of like stop comparing or kind of like minimize that comparison is, one, I just avoid looking at certain profiles, or for me, like even some channels, because as a YouTuber, like pretty much your work is just online, and people and you can easily compare your work with someone else, like your number of views, subscribers, comments, likes. Like it's just so easy to kind of compare. But then I just like need to like be conscious and not do that, because everyone's so different. Everyone's on their own journey, and I need to make sure I don't put my self-worth into just numbers and likes, because I know I'm way more than that. Like deep down, we all know we're so much more than just likes and followers and stuff. And so it's just something that I have to constantly remind myself, and I think that's a really, really good tip. It's so crucial how you talk to yourself and the things that you think. If you're always dwelling on the negative things and asking like questions that your brain can't really answer, it's just like, oh, why does she look like that and I don't? It's just like, you know, it just goes around in circle. There's no like end to it. But if we kind of focus on other things and ask better questions, it's like, what can I do today to make myself feel better? What are the things I love about myself? What am I really good at? Things like that, your brain can compute and have certain answers. Whereas like if you ask these like airy-fairy questions, it's just like ongoing and ongoing. And so self-talk is super important. Practice being nice to yourself. Be that like encouraging cheerleader friend that you guys have, but be that to yourself. How to love yourself when people tell you that you've become fat. Let me tell you guys, one of the biggest lessons I've learned, especially being online and having everything kind of critiqued by random people on the internet, that you can't put your self-worth and how much you love yourself in the hands of strangers' comments, okay? A lot of these times, people that make comments like these, they're unhappy with who they are, and it's really a reflection of them, and really, it has nothing to do with you. Whether the comments are,
you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too big, you're too small, like you look like this or whatever.
A lot of the time, they're just really unhappy with their lives and they feel the need to bring other people down. For sure, it's really hard to detach yourself when you see comments like this. I had a really hard time, and that's one of the things that gave me like major anxiety. Like, comments would just get to me and just ruin my whole day. But now that I've learned like over time that, hey, it's like totally not worth my energy and not worth my day to dwell on these comments. But it's hard. It's just like a constant exercise you need to do. The more that you do it, the more that you shut these comments out, the easier it gets, if you know what I mean. It's like kind of like working out a muscle at the gym. You get stronger over time. So again, this is where self-talk comes into play. If I keep repeating those shitty comments about me being fat or me being short and like things not fitting well in my brain, that's all I'm gonna think about, right? And I'm gonna start believing that's true. But if I just like switch those comments out for better things, then yeah, like I'll feel better about myself. I'm not gonna let those comments get to me and kind of bring me down. Now, if these comments are coming from your friends, your partner, your family members, it really depends, because sometimes it could be their way of showing their concern about you and show you that they care, but not in the best way possible. For example, like my mum or like my aunties, like they haven't seen me for a while. If she's FaceTiming for a while, she's like, oh, you've gained weight, or like, oh, now you're too skinny, or the mums or like family members just have that way of talking to you. Like they don't have a filter sometimes, and it's not like they want to bring you down. Well, hopefully they don't want to bring you down. A lot of the time it's just more like, hey, like, I noticed you gained a couple of like kilos, maybe you gotta like watch what you eat and blah, blah, blah. And it's more out of like their way of showing that they care and love you, if you know what I mean. It's really hard because I feel like you would know this if you come from like an Asian family. Everyone's just really brutal sometimes, and it's just like, they would just say what they feel. Now, if you guys who are watching have been through this and have like certain ways that you've dealt with it, leave them below so we can all share like our experience and what has helped us, because this is just my experience, but you guys may have experienced something else, and something else may have worked for you. So please share it down below. Do you ever feel insecure in your relationship? Yes, I do all the time, and I did a lot before Alfred proposed, and it's so silly when I think about it now. But yeah, like I would feel really insecure. I'd have this doubt that, oh, maybe Alfred will leave me, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe he doesn't love me enough, blah, 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 blah. Like all these thoughts in my head. And some of it came from like past experience in other relationships. Some of it, I just had this really bad like dialogue, and then these thoughts that would pop into my head got more airtime than good thoughts, if you know what I mean. I do feel like it's really common for a lot of people to feel some sort of insecurity in their relationship, but it's kind of more important on how they deal with that, if you know what I mean. Like if they are communicating that well with their partner. I wasn't, or like when we would talk about it, I'd be really defensive, and I'd be like, this is like why I feel like this, and you're not helping, and every time you do this, it makes me feel like this. And it's just like, it's hard. But a good tip is, if you feel a certain way in your relationship and you want to talk about this certain insecurity, it's always best to do it outside the home where like no one has like leverage, if you know what I mean. Like the playing field is even. You're not in like, it's not like you're in a place where you can just storm off and go to another room or whatever and shut the person out. I think it's always nice to like be outside the home, maybe go for ice cream, maybe go for coffee. And when you share your feelings and thoughts, Say, this is how I feel, but it's not like, this is how you make me feel. You know, like don't attack the other person, because I have been there. It does not end well. It's important to know how you want to say these things. A lot of the time I would like journal and write things down, or even like run through the conversation in my head, just to make sure that when I'm expressing how I feel, it's not bringing the other person down. And, you know, the goal is to have that person listen and hopefully come up with some solutions to help you get past these insecurities. And so communication is key, but it's really, really important in how you communicate certain feelings and insecurities, because a lot of the time it's all in your own head. It's really not that person doing it to you, hopefully. In every relationship, there's going to be issues and problems, and every time you get past it, it just makes your relationship stronger. So, you know, I encourage you to have these hard conversations and not bottle things up inside, because that's when it does real serious damage, if you just bury everything. I know that because I've been through it. I would love if you could talk about how to separate your real life, mind and body from the ones that we share and see on social media, and how to stay grounded and grateful in a world full of facade. A good way to kind of separate the two is not to let the likes, numbers consume you. In the past, I've been obsessed with that. It doesn't do you any good, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't define your self-worth and who you are, and, you know, your worthiness is not in these like stupid little love hearts and likes. For me, when I look at the things that I post on social media, I try to only post things that I'm proud of and that make me happy. In the past, I've posted like pretty photos and stuff, but when I look at that, I just kind of think about, oh, how miserable I was trying to get this perfect shot for Instagram, or like if Alpha and I had an argument because he was taking the photo and I didn't like how I looked. Like, that's the stuff that I see sometimes in my old posts. But nowadays I post things that I'm proud of. It's my work, things that I like, things that, yes, like even if no one liked it, or even if I didn't get like high number of likes and views, I'm still okay with it because I like the content for what it is. Something that's really helped me these days is that I've just been telling myself that I'm so grateful and happy with certain things in my life. You know, maybe I'm having a bad day or something, but I always try to end my day and feel grateful for the things that I do have in my life, because there are people out there struggling way more than I am due to COVID or just like their own problems. I should always feel grateful, even if like something messes up. At the end of the day, I am here. I get to live another day. I have an amazing partner. I have an amazing job. I have a roof over my head. I have food in my belly. I think it's always really, really important to focus on the positive things in our life. Again, that kind of just reinforces our positive self-talk, and it just focuses our energy on the better aspects, if you know what I mean. And that will create a ripple, and you know, you'll start thinking better thoughts, be more positive, and kind of just start having these conversations be louder than the comments about certain insecurities that pop into our head. A really good quote to kind of like capture that is, it all begins and ends in your mind. What you give power to has power over you if you allow it. I don't know who that is by, but I think it's a really good quote just to kind of reinforce that it's all in here. It's so important, the thoughts and the self-talk you have, because you're the one allowing yourself to feel either happy or sad or insecure or confident. It all starts and ends within. Now I want to wrap this video up with the giveaway question. So if you guys want a chance to win the self-care package that I put together, all you have to do is answer this. What are 3 things that you love about yourself? Leave your answers below and let me know your name and which country you're from, and I will contact the winner by replying to the comment. So make sure you keep your YouTube notifications on. Thank you for tuning into this lengthy video. You guys know that I talk a lot because I like to share. Also, if you're new here and you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click subscribe so you guys can stay up to date with future videos that I post, and I shall speak to you guys next time. Bye for now. Ooh, that was a lot for my brain to think about. I need to just lay down. Ooh. Ba-dum-bum.